Hey everybody, Arnaldo here, and no, this is not my kid's room. This is my room. It's like all Mario decked out, and I can't believe my wife let me do this. But I wanted to talk to you about a new product. This is my bedroom tank. It's my anemone tank, and it's just been a really fun process because there's not many coral in there. I just put a couple in there just to see what would happen, and it's been an interesting result. But it's mostly anemones and a couple of Kenyan trees and my clowns and a couple of blennies, and yeah. I have my dosing stuff underneath here, and then on that the right-hand side, or left-hand side, excuse me, I have my reactors, and one of my reactors is carbon. And carbon is very important, especially with an anemone tank, just in case they decide to go all biological warfare on each other. And I got tired of honestly replacing carbon, and I was looking at different stuff, right? I looked at Purigen, and I like Purigen, and I know it does a good job cleaning up because it kept getting darker and darker, and then you recharge it. But I didn't see my water crystal clear with just Purigen, so I did Purigen and carbon. Now, if it's just one tank, it's not a big deal, but when you've got 16 aquariums, yeah, that carbon gets expensive after a while. Even on my freshwater, where I don't necessarily use carbon, I would use it occasionally, especially with medicine, or if I needed to clear too many nutrients out of there because the plants were not able to keep up. So I was looking at different stuff, and I found AquaChar. The reason I found AquaChar is because it's kind of controversial. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And it's not that people are saying, oh, it's a bad product, but people cannot figure out how exactly a bunch of burnt wood takes the place of carbon. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to try it out. Did some research into it, gave it a try, and it's very interesting. So first of all, let's talk about what this AquaChar is. Got a bag of it right here. I've used most of it already, and it literally looks like charcoal. Actually, no. It looks like what happens when you throw a Christmas tree into a fire pit. But is that really what it is? All what you're paying for is burnt wood? Not really. So Brian with AquaChar was very nice enough to talk to me for almost an hour over all this. And this is the way that it works. And this is how a lot of these kind of products work. So essentially, I'm gonna try to dumb this down so most people can understand, okay? So when you have organisms, right? Any kind of organism, whether it's stuff from dead food or fish poop or any kind of waste, okay, that is positively charged. Now, if you were not asleep, like some people, during most of high school, then you know that if there's something with a negative charge and then something with a positive charge, they just kind of get attracted to each other. Kind of like Tinder, swipe right, and there it goes. So essentially, by burning this wood, and I don't mean just burning it, I mean basically just killing it to the point that it has zero organic material, all positive charge is gone out of it. So now it's negative. So what this means is that as you have all your water passing through it, all those positively charged ions are going to immediately bind to that wood. That's kind of how carbon works. The problem with carbon, and the reason I don't like using carbon, especially with some sensitive tanks, is how long does carbon last? You know, my Red Sea says 3 to 6 months. My Sea Chem stuff says about 6 months as well. Then I have some that says 7 days. You know, most people tell you, okay, well, you know, it depends on your tank, and that is, you know, you can do the water test where you pour your water out, and if it's no longer, you know, nice and clear and it's yellowish, yeah, your carbon's probably not cleaning it up. But the problem is that carbon is usually used for two things: clearing water or getting rid of chemical warfare. Well, guess what happens with carbon the moment that all that carbon is exhausted? It literally leaches everything back out. I cannot tell you how many of my friends' tanks and customers' tanks, back when I worked at a pet store for a little bit, would have issues, and all the water tests came back, everything came back positive, and then I look at the carbon like, oh, you haven't replaced it in months. Dude, and that's what the issue was. So then the thing is AquaChar, what happens? Am I gonna have the same issue with AquaChar? Because I don't have the issue with Purigen, but Purigen quite doesn't clean the water the way I'd like it to, right? It does a good job, but not perfect. Well, what happens is once this stuff gets filled up, if you look at it, it almost, you know, like I said, it's got a whole bunch of little nooks and crannies. And that's exactly what happens is bacteria start living in this, and this becomes now an additional source of filtration. Hey, dope. This means that the stuff does not leach back out into your tank. So if you have somebody that's starting a new aquarium, you can just give them some of your old AquaChar, and hey, you've got already some seeded bacteria to help, boost that cycling process a little bit. But you can also, and you can see this on the website, you can actually recharge it by killing all those positive charges. How do you do that? Well, hydrogen peroxide. Pour it in there, follow the instructions on the website, and this small investment of AquaChar will last you a while. But the reason I'm doing this video isn't to talk about, ooh, here's what it is, here's what it does, here's why it's so great according to them. It's what are my actual results. AquaChar promises 3 things essentially. 1, it's going to replace your carbon. It's going to replace your purigen. Okay, pretty dope. 2, it claims that it becomes live. Okay, that one's gonna be a little hard for me to quantify, so we'll move that off to the side. But the most important part is, will it leach stuff back in my water? And then 3, it says it stabilizes your pH while clearing up your water. Okay, so that's 4 claims. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now this is my saltwater tank, and the beautiful thing about AquaChar is just like most of these type of products, it can be for saltwater or freshwater. So we'll take a look at both. But this is my bedroom saltwater tank. I have not changed AquaChar in 3 months, and that water is clear. Let's take a look. It's been 13 days since I have done a water change in this tank. Let's take a look at the water. Excuse my dirty lid here. Look at that. Look at this. This is completely clear. Look at this. It's completely clear. 13 days of no water changes and 3 months that I've been using the same AquaChar. No carbon or anything in there. Has my pH been stabilized? Well, let's take a look at that as well. So the pH is dangerous, but the super wild swings are gone, from like 7.25 to 7.75. So now you're talking about a 0.25 pH swing, and it's consistent. So at least I know that that's not anything else other than the light to day cycle. The most important part is it leaching everything back out? It's kind of hard to quantify that, but what I can tell you is nothing is dying. It's doing better than ever. My anemones are growing, my coral that I put in here are doing well, my rock flower anemones are doing great, the water is nice and clear. But now let's take a look at the freshwater tanks. This is one of my many freshwater tanks, and it's got lots of plants. So I was worried that AquaChar would just completely stop plant growth, or even worse, have my plants be dead, and quite the opposite. Again, excuse the algae, it's just, I don't dose chemicals or anything in there, so I'm fighting it the natural way, and yeah, you can see how that's going. But otherwise, it's doing great. I mean, look how these anubias are growing. I've got little offshoots down there that are growing great, and I don't do any CO2 dosing or anything like that. Fish are nice and happy, and most importantly, that water is clear again, no yellowing or anything. You will see some particles floating around. It's also because I just cleaned some of the algae off the front so you could see it a little bit better. So again, in a nutshell, that is AquaChar. I am super stoked with this product. I definitely recommend it. Is it expensive? Kinda. It is, but when you compare it against how much you might be spending on carbon, AquaChar is definitely gonna be cheaper. I have a couple of tanks that I use AquaChar in conjunction with my Purigen, and that's only because I have enough room and there's no such thing as too much of that type of filtration. But honestly, just AquaChar alone, as you can see here and in my other tanks, it's doing great. And again, once it gets exhausted, if you don't want to recharge it, you can use it as additional filtration because it does harbor all that beneficial bacteria. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, etc., leave them down below. Thanks for watching. Good night and God bless.